Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you may be in the world. This is Nick Banks for all things PlayStation, and today I'm going to be delivering a review for Farpoint. And I know what you're thinking, Nick, you're not very up to date with your reviews, are you? Well, there are a few problems in that I'm not getting pre-release review copies. I'm not a super duper mega YouTuber like Angry Joe, so these things, they still take a lot of time in terms of me being able to afford them and get them and play them and record them and review them. So all of that takes a little while, and I'm also thinking there's a heck of a lot of people out there who are in this large pool, this large group of people who are scratching their heads and thinking really hard about PlayStation VR. Can they afford it? Do they really want it? Is it worth getting? Are there enough games on it? So if you're teetering on the edge of that pool of people, then who knows? Maybe this review is for you. Let's crack into it. So first things first, there aren't really many VR games out there right now, and I'm not talking just PlayStation, but PlayStation PC, Oculus, HTC, wherever you want to go. There aren't many VR games out there that actually let you move about freely on a 3D spectrum. It's usually a case of teleport from here to there, look around, interact, yada yada, and so on and so forth. But Farpoint actually lets you wander around freely, and that still has an added novelty within the VR sphere. And it's one of the few games that's letting us do it right next to Resident Evil 7. And that is a burning question that will be popping up in a lot of people's minds as they play Farpoint. Because it's just so easily comparable to Resident Evil 7, because it's in that tiny little bracket of VR games that let you do this. So I don't like to compare one game to another when talking critically, as a general rule, of all things in a review as well. But it's really damned hard not to do in this case. So the burning question is Farpoint as good as Resident Evil 7? And the answer to that question lies a lot closer to the end of this video. First off, let's just get into how Farpoint's shooting mechanics are actually better. We'll just focus on the shooting mechanics for now. They are better than Resident Evil 7's shooting mechanics because Farpoint has the advantage of being a sole VR title. Unlike Resident Evil 7, it doesn't have to split its resources across the two audiences of VR and non-VR, so it's able to commit a far more creative and invested design process into how you hold your gun, how you shoot your gun. And in the case of Farpoint, I've got to say, it is a very enjoyable and satisfying novel experience to lift the controller up to my face, be it the DualShock 4 or that crazy plastic gun that PlayStation recently released, and physically look down the sights, and actually having to close one eye to see down the sights and focus on things properly. There's something special about that. And I think Farpoint has set a precedent here in terms of what VR can do with shooters. Call of Duty, way back in the day, they came up with the idea of let's have this button to bring the gun up and look down the sights. And this is pretty much the VR equivalent of that. I think what Farpoint has done here with this particular mechanic is very important, and it will echo in future VR titles. The only problem we have here is that's just about all you are going to be doing, looking down the sights and shooting aliens, or not looking down the sights and still shooting nasty aliens. It was fairly late on that I discovered I could actually hide behind cover and stick my arm out around it, wildly blind firing with infinite clips, and that was rewarding because it was worked, and it was my idea, and the enemy AI frankly isn't smart enough to do anything about it. But aside from that, let's just be clear here. There are no collectibles, there's no inventory screen, just no character progression, no alternate routes to explore, nothing extra to find. So basically what we have here is a linear piece of sci-fi narrative that players are expected to survive to conclusion. Expect nothing more than going from A to B, killing things on the way, with cutscenes in the interim between one level and the next. So depending on what kind of gamer you are, complexity might actually not be something that you're looking out for, and that might be fine by you. But Farpoint does try to imitate Interstellar in a way. That's right, the Matthew McConaughey movie. It tries to replicate its complexities, and if I'm being honest, it falls flat on its face with that. But all of that said, there is a little bit of variety in Farpoint to be had. You can play co-op campaign if you're lucky enough to have a friend who can also afford a VR headset, and you can also play challenge mode, which is where you basically go over the same levels under time constraints to, blam away at aliens all over again. In all fairness to Impulskia, the developers of Farpoint, I think they were very aware of their one-dimensional gameplay that was being poured into the project. So as a result, we do have a good bit of variety in the enemy types. I'll just say for now that those crazy giant head crab beasties that you've seen in the trailer, they're just the beginning. There's going to be lots of other different kinds of things for you to blam away at if you pick up this game. So that's kind of a good thing, I suppose. So finally, let's circle back around to our initial burning question. Is Farpoint better than Resident Evil 7, or vice versa? Well, in actual fact, I think it'd be a lot fairer to say that it's not better and it's not worse either. It's just a completely different kind of game, going for different things. I could stretch to say that Resident Evil 7 achieved its objectives and its goals far more effectively than Farpoint did. But in Farpoint's defense, its goal may have been to prioritize shooting mechanics over storytelling. If that was the case, then it absolutely succeeded. But if its goals were the other way around, then it failed. But when you take the package of Farpoint in its entirety, what have you got there? You've got a simple, easy to pick up, bite-sized chunk of sci-fi fun, which is great. Although that said, I'm not sure I agree with the price point of Farpoint. It's currently selling for full typical asking price for video games these days, which I think is a little bit off, because you've got your campaign which lasts about 5 hours, co-op campaign is just jumping over that same content again, and you've got the challenge mode, which, as I mentioned earlier on, is just blamming away at aliens all over again, which you've already done in the campaign, so I don't think it earns its price point. But that said, if you've got a VR headset and you've got a couple of games to trade in, definitely give Farpoint a go. Just don't expect it to be sitting on your shelf for very long after you've finished it. And with that, I'll leave you guys this time around. This is Nick Banks for All Things PlayStation, and I hope to see you on the next video. Until then, make sure you click the subscribe button. Peace.